You very much for inviting me to participate in your program today. It's it's an honor for me to be with you and your congregation in Gurugram stan. Another stan. Uh, there's all these stans: Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Hindustan. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna refers to this world as Prakritistan. He says, Prakriti Stani Karshati. He says that whenever anyone is living in Prakritistan, meaning the material world, always he will undergo a hard struggle with his mind and senses. It just cannot be escaped. We're always calculating and we're making plans how we're going to escape the miseries of this world. But we can never escape the threefold miseries of material existence unless you rise above that and you understand who you actually are as being an eternal servant of Krishna, not this body and not this mind. So in all the stans, always problems are going on. And in the past year and a half, we've been having the COVID problem. And it's definitely been a problem, but it's been a blessing that it's been able to bring us together through the media of the internet, and we can have a little bit of association. So my thanks to you, my thanks to all of you for inviting me today. Generally, I never, although I like to sing kirtan, I like to sit with devotees and sing the kirtan. I generally never ever like to hear recordings of me singing kirtan or to see videos of me singing kirtan. It's just, I don't know, there's something about it. It's for many years, I would never even allow devotees to make a recording when I would sing, because I always thought that somebody would try to monetize it, or I don't know, I had so many ideas. And and then when I was working in Kazakhstan, and it was a very poor place, and I required funds, then we used to make CDs. That's back in the ancient era when people used CDs and they had CD players, and we used to make CDs and distribute in order to, help finance our activities. But when I turned on the Zoom, I saw that Mayapur Kirtan Mela, and it was so nice. It wasn't nice that I was sitting there and singing, but it was nice to see that so many sincere souls had come together with the intent of serving Krishna through the media of serving his holy name. And I guess, like, if you folks, if you see the videos of me, generally when I'm in kirtan, I really have my eyes closed. For the most part, I have my eyes closed. And many times after I sing my part, I'm waiting for the communication to come back from the congregation. And I'm just really trying to focus on the great beauty of that sound vibration, because I understand that that great beauty of the transcendental sound is non-different from Rasaraj Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we feel, when we sit in kirtan, we feel special inspiration. You know, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has explained that there are different ways of performing what he calls kirtan. And one method of performing kirtan is that when we sit down with our mala, and this is such an important aspect in the life of every practicing devotee, that we sit down with our mala with very, very serious intent that, you know, every word we say, we keep our mind fixed on that. Because the mind is very chanchal, and the mind is very tricky, and the mind will want to run away in a moment. But when we sit down with our mala, we can focus so deeply. And historically, many times when people would do japa, they would do manasik japa, where they would just do japa in the mind. So in that position of doing manasik japa, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, it is a very nice thing, because then the mind is engaged in Krishna. And we understand from Lord Krishna's teachings in Bhagavad Gita that when he starts speaking in this 7th chapter, when he starts talking about bhakti, the first thing he tells Arjuna is Maya Shakta Manaha. To go ahead and to advance in bhakti, you have to keep your mind on me at all times. He says, keep your mind on me. And he says, perform yoga, taking full shelter of me. And you should know that there's nothing beyond myself, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he says that the way that you can actually come to this point of revelation and steadiness is that consistently you must hear from me. He concludes that verse by saying, Tat Shrinu, always hear from me. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, manasik, he says it's good because mind is thinking of Krishna. And for those people who listen to the lectures of Srila Prabhupada, and if you don't listen to the lectures of Srila Prabhupada, I recommend that you listen to the lectures of Srila Prabhupada. But I think the verse that he's lectured on the most is the first verse of the 7th chapter. And I've listened and I've read many of those lectures, and because Srila Prabhupada, he can recite, he can speak on the same verse through eternity, and it will always be ever fresh. You know, he will always present a different perspective each time he speaks. It reminds me of Srila Prabhupada talking about the time that his Guru Maharaj, Srila 1930s or 1920s or something like that. He went to Dhaka and he stayed for 3 months. And in that 3 months he was in Dhaka, he spoke on the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam every day for many hours. And those who were writing the notes and those who were present, they said that in those 3 months, he never touched on the same point twice, speaking on one verse. So in this Maya Shakti Manaha Partha, one lecture I was reading, Srila Prabhupada said, what does it mean to keep your mind attached to Krishna? And he gave an example, and the example that he gave was Mother Jasoda. And he said, you should keep your mind attached to Krishna like Mother Jasoda's mind is attached to Krishna. Meaning Mother Jasoda can never, ever stop thinking about her baby Krishna at any time. Anything she will see in Vrindavan will remind her of her baby Krishna. When Krishna is going out for Gocharan, for herding the cows with the cowherd boys, she doesn't stop thinking of Krishna for a moment. Her mind is so attached to Krishna that basically the whole time he goes out, she's just really, really scared and terrified that something may happen to Krishna. You know, before the boys go out for herding cows, it's very difficult for Krishna just to leave the village of Vrindavan. It's like he takes, you know, and the boys are ready because, like I can recall when I was a young boy, I was always ready to get away from my parents and to go out with my boyfriends. We would climb trees and we would go swimming and we would play football and we would do so many different things and we would make jokes, and we were always eager to get away from, you know, like our parents watching us all the time. And Krishna and his boyfriends, they're very eager that way also. Because Krishna is thinking, when I'm with my boyfriends, then I can exclusively love them like they're my boyfriends. And his boyfriends are thinking, when he's exclusively with us, then Mama Jasoda won't be there, and gopis won't be there, and we have him all to ourselves. But Jasoda is so fixed upon Krishna that just for him to leave the village is very, very difficult. He'll take 2 steps and then she'll say, stop. And then she will come and she will make some special puja on Krishna to protect him from demons. And then he'll take another 2 steps and then she'll stop him. And she'll take Balaram, Krishna's big brother, and will take one of the other cowherd boys, you know, a little older than Krishna. And she will make them swear, you know, that you have to protect my boy at all times. Don't leave his side. You know, this Kamsa Maharaj over in Mathura, he can send demons. Protect my boy. And naturally, when Balaram hears that inside, he's sort of like, he's laughing. He says, she doesn't know who he is. You know, she doesn't understand the power that my brother has. She just thinks that he is her little boy. And then he'll take another few steps, and the next thing you know, she'll be bringing lunch bags for Krishna. Because when they go, and then they go out to the pasture, they're not out there for so long before the boys start saying, we're hungry, we're hungry. And maybe that's the way it is with boys. Boys always seem to be hungry, always ready to take prasadam. And so, she stops, and finally they escape. But her mind is always attached. And we should question, like we are calling ourselves devotees, or we can call ourselves aspiring devotees. We're aspiring to become Vaishnavas. We're aspiring to become Krishna's devotees. But is our mind fully attached to Krishna at all times? Do we call ourselves devotees just because of our tilak? Or do we call ourselves devotees just because of our sikas? Or do we call ourselves devotees just because of our kanti? Or are we like devotees whose minds are always fixed on Krishna? And that's what we should hope for. This practice of Krishna Bhakti, this wonderful process of chanting the holy names and reading Srila Prabhupada's books and performing Harinam Sankirtan and giving mercy to other people through sharing Harinam Sankirtan and teachings of Gita and Bhagavad. What this will do is it will, Krishna will give us his mercy, and then our minds will become fixed. And then when Krishna returns home at night from his gocharan, from being with the cowherd boys and cows all day long, cows and calves, Mother Yasoda is so anxiously waiting for Krishna. Is anxiously waiting for him to come. It's like she's just living from one breath to the next. When will my little boy appear? When will my little boy appear? Like I can see that our Rambhadra, he is brahmachari, correct? He is wearing brahmachari cloth. But I see that Akansha and Shreya are there. And so I know that they're, and generally the way of our society is that they're majority family people who are having, majority family people who are having their Akanshas and Shreyas that they love more than anything. And when Akansha and Shreya, when they go off to school, are you back in school or is it online? Anyhow, if you go to school, when the time is coming for you to come home, your mother is just so anxious to see the two of you walking through the door. Her heart is just pumping. When will my girls come? When will my girls come? So only imagine how much attached Jasoda Maya is to Krishna. Mind always fixed, mind always attached. And when he comes, she's there and she's like weeping and weeping and weeping because she's just in anxiety about Krishna and she loves him so much. And he comes and he sits on Jasoda's lap. And she's still weeping and weeping and weeping and crying and crying and crying. And he's going, Mother, I'm here. Mother, I'm here. Stop weeping. but she's so much absorbed in Krishna, she doesn't even understand that he's right there in front of her. So, Maya Shakti Manaha, we need to attach our mind to Krishna. So one process is, japa, one form of kirtan. And then our manasik japa. And then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, next thing is when we start vibrating the holy names. When we're chanting and we're using our tongue and our ear, and very clearly we're saying, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And when we're saying that, we're making sure that the monkey that lives up here is totally focused on that. It's like you people in Gurugram stan, maybe you're lucky that you don't have monkeys. Do you have monkeys there?
Yes, Maharaj. We have some monkeys come in the morning time. They attend the Darshanarti and they take away our potatoes and they go away.
We have monkeys who attend all the time. Over here in Vrindavan, the monkeys are the big badmashes. They're the big dakus. They're the big, terrorists. Horrible, horrible people, these monkeys, And like right now outside, I got monkeys walking around waiting to try to steal something or to break something. And then if they snatch something and if I chase them, they jump up in the tree. And then they'll jump to another place. But that is what the mind is like. That's what we call the mind, the monkey mind. Because when you're chanting Hare Krishna, your mind will be jumping and maybe thinking of some service, or maybe thinking of some place you want to go, or maybe thinking of something that you want to buy, or maybe thinking of some, discussion that you had with somebody else. But mind should be a shakta. Mind should be fixed on Krishna. So Srila Bhaktivinoda says that this japa, he says, it is a better form of kirtan. Manasik means mind is becoming engaged. But japa means mind and your senses are becoming engaged. So it's a more complete process. And then he says that the topmost process is that we will very carefully, or very enthusiastically, I should say, do like what we do in Mayapur Kirtan Mela, where you have hundreds of people come together. And everybody is chanting very, very loudly and very with lovingly sound for Krishna. And then you become absorbed. And then that absorbed state, what happens? When you're chanting with lovingly sound and with full heart, then Krishna, he starts to give his mercy. And then you see all the people, they get up and they start to dance. Because I'm an old person, I've been careful about too much going outside because of COVID-19. And I haven't been visiting ISKCON temple here, although probably from my house to the back gate of the ISKCON temple. If there is no walls, I could be there in about 3 minutes. You know, it's just zoop, so close. And then in the beginning of March, I received my first COVID injection. And then by the middle of April, I got COVID-19 when the surge was going here in India. And then by Krishna's grace and Radharani's grace and by the power of the prayer of the Vaishnavas, I got through the COVID and the different problems that were connected to the COVID. And then I started going to the temple. And a couple of nights a week, we sing kirtan over there. And it's so wonderful because you hear all of those voices and the devotees, they get up and they start dancing. It's like Mahaprabhu's process, chanting and dancing, and Krishna showers with mercy. Chanting and dancing, and Krishna showers with mercy. And there's one nice devotee here now. His name is Gopinath. And he's come from South Africa. And Gopinath, he has African body. And he dances very, very beautiful. You know, he dances in so many ways. And he engages all of the brahmacharis and the men and dancing in so many beautiful ways. And the other day, the brahmacharis, they were speaking to Gopinath and they said, please, why don't you come a little bit before kirtan and we can like practice some different dances for the kirtan. And Gopinath looked up and he said, no, we don't practice for kirtan. This is not like some practice dance that you see on the stage. He said, this dancing, it springs from the heart by the grace of Krishna's holy name and by the mercy of the Lord. Mahaprabhu said, chant and dance. And when we chant and dance Mahaprabhu, he lets the shower come. He lets the rain cloud of mercy come. So yeah, back to the beginning point, right back to the beginning point. Generally when I never like to hear a recording of me singing the kirtan. Nor do I like to see sometimes I go and people run the video of me in some kirtan place. I don't like that. I feel myself to be a fallen person, not to be, advertised and promoted. But then when I hear that chanting, like I was just like watching this video today and I was thinking, ooh, the sound is so wonderful. That's Krishna's holy name. And when we sit for kirtan also, when we have kirtan together and you all see me and my friends, we're sitting together and, when we have our eyes so closed and we're trying to concentrate, we're just trying to hear Krishna in his holy names. We're praying to Krishna in his holy names. We're asking Krishna, please give me pure bhakti. We're saying, Krishna, we don't want anything else. We want only your pure bhakti. And Mahaprabhu has told us. He has said, na danam, na janam, na sundarim kavitam bhajagadish kamai. Mama janmani janmanishvari, bhavatad bhakti rahai tukhitvai. he said, Lord Krishna, I don't want wealth. He said, I don't want followers. He said, I don't want pleasures of this world. And he said, I don't want to be liberated from this world. And he said, Mama Janmani Janmanishwari, birth after birth, meaning I don't even want liberation. I'm prepared to stay in, Gurugram, or I'm prepared to stay wherever. I don't care. But what I want is your pure devotional service. So when that beautiful sound of the holy name is going, one should focus the mind. And one should just take that opportunity to pray with all sincerity, please give me pure devotional service. Please give me pure devotional service. We never ask for anything else. Srila Prabhupada used to say that when you perform devotional service, so many good things come. So many things come. It's just like if you chant the holy names, if you perform devotional service, if you preach, some reputation will come after you. Some name will come after you. All these things will chase after you. But the devotee always remains laser focused. I only want pure bhakti. Only give me that. Let me serve my Guru Maharaj in the way that he is instructed. And by service to Guru Dev, for sure, Krishna will give his mercy, pure bhakti. That's all I want. Every day we sing Jisya Prasada, Bhagavat Prasada, Jisya Prasada, Nakati Topi. If we please our Guru Maharaj, Krishna, Kalas, he gives his mercy. And what does that mercy mean? It's not that Krishna's not going to give mercy. Krishna's not going to give something that's going to make it difficult for you in bhakti. Krishna's not going to give you a new car or a new house or anything like that. Sometimes a new car comes. Sometimes a new house comes. But we just understand that, that was all in our karma to have. But when Krishna gives us mercy, Krishna will give us nice sadhu sangha, and Krishna will give us, good realization of what we read in Prabhupada's books. And then most importantly, Krishna will give us a taste for bhakti. Yeah, so that, again, back to the beginning, just hearing the kirtan like that is so wonderful. You should give mercy sometime, Rambhadra, and allow us to come to Gurugram, and we will do kirtan there.
Sure, Maharaj, we are so fortunate, Maharaj. We are very close. We are happy to receive you, Maharaj. Have a live kirtan here.
Yeah, we should come, have nice kirtan night. We come
Yes,
from
sure, Maharaj.
chant holy names, and then get in the car and go back to Vrindavan. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people, they don't understand. They think that, because you are playing the video, they see us sitting there in kirtan. They don't understand, we're all sitting there and we're like greedy men. Greedy that we just want to hear those holy names of Krishna. We just want to hear the beautiful, downpour of Krishna's mercy and chanting his names. And there's nothing better than that. In the beginning of the Bhagavatam, it says that the most refined and the most auspicious activity that all of us, any living being in the whole wide world, the most refined and the most auspicious activity that he can engage in is to hear and chant about Krishna. And the Bhagavatam explains that when all of us who are here today, when we sit down to hear and chant about Krishna, then Krishna, who rests in each of our hearts as the Paramatma, he becomes very happy. And then he starts to clean the situation himself from within our hearts. And everybody who is in class today, we all know that in our hearts we have Kam and Krodha and Lobha and Matsarya. We have all these different qualities that are not good qualities. These are the qualities that keep us. It's like say you come to Vrindavan and we want to get on the boat to go to the other side of the Jamuna. But the boatman, he has his anchor down in the mud on one side. So we all tell the boatman, chalo. And the boatman starts going like this and going like this and going like that and going like that. But if the anchor is not out of the mud, we won't go anywhere. So this Kam and Krod and Lob, these are all like anchors that keep us stuck in the mud of material life. So we have to think, how will these anchors go out? And then the answer is given. Hear and chant about Krishna. And then Krishna, as the Paramatma inside your heart, he starts to take them out. Krishna is so kind and so merciful that he does that for us. And he gives us hints. I guess everybody here, as you've been performing your devotional service and chanting the holy names, is sometimes you get like a hint from Krishna. You get like some insight, some sort of good idea that comes from Krishna. That's a reciprocation from Krishna. Again, Krishna will never give us something material. Krishna will never give us something. Even if we want something material, Krishna doesn't want to give it to us. Krishna wants to give his devotees those things that are going to help them quickly come to him. Because what is it that Krishna wants? Krishna just wants our sangha. Krishna just wants our association. And Krishna wants our prema. One of my monkey friends is just outside my window here trying to destroy something. Too many monkeys in Vrindavan. Yeah. So we should do that, Rambhadra. We should come to Gurugram, and we should have good kirtan sometime. And then we run back to Vrindavan.
Sure, Maharaj.
You have to bring a lot of people together so that when we chant, we can hear the holy names nicely. Okay?
Yes, Maharaj. We have here like around 30 congregations groups. So we can call all the congregations and the youth and children's. So we have a wonderful association. We are longing for this, Maharaj. So you just find another date, and before Janmashtami or after Janmashtami, whatever convenient to you, Maharaj. So we are happy to be a personal association chanting holy names.
Okay.
It will become like a Mayapur.
We have to be careful, that everybody is saying there's going to be a third wave of COVID. So we have to keep our ear very close to the ground to find out what the COVID situation is, because we don't want to have any super spreader functions where everybody is spraying COVID on one another. But we will plan. Okay, so ultimately, like the objective of chanting Hare Krishna is to develop love for Krishna. And can somebody put my face back on the screen so I can see myself? Who's the operator over here? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, the goal of chanting Hare Krishna is to love Krishna and nothing else. Lord Chaitanya has told us that there or the Vedas have told us that there are different goals that people want to attain in life. But Lord Chaitanya has told us that of all the goals that are prescribed in the Vedas, the highest goal is just to love Krishna selflessly. He said, Prema Pumarto Mahan. Yeah, and we keep going back to the point, why do we want pure bhakti? Because if we have pure bhakti, then we will have the best consciousness and the best body and everything else for serving Krishna eternally. I mean, you hear my friends outside? They're having a little bit of a riot. Yeah, we hear about the idea of going to Goloka Vrindavan. And because life in this world in Prakritistan is so miserable, we're thinking, chalo, let's go to Goloka Vrindavan immediately. In Goloka Vrindavan, every word is a song. In Goloka Vrindavan, every step is a dance. In Goloka Vrindavan, everything is Satchidananda. Everything, meaning filled with spiritual ecstasy. In Goloka Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan bodies are different than these bodies. These bodies get COVID-19. Goloka Vrindavan, there's no COVID-19. Goloka Vrindavan, there's only ecstasy at all times. So, as we start growing in bhakti, we hear about this, divine realm of Goloka. And some people consider, gosh, it sounds a whole lot better than where we're living now. Let's get over there to get away from all of this stuff. But our real objective in wanting to go to Golokdham is just to serve Krishna in the best way possible. And there they serve him in the best way possible. Krishna has a lot of different forms in which he appears. Krishna appears as Lord Narayan. Krishna appears as Lord Vishnu. Krishna appears as Lord Ramachandra Dev. Krishna appears as Vamandev, Krishna appears as Narsingha Bhagavan. Krishna appears in so many different ways. And if you go really beyond the material world and you go into the Vaikuntha world, then all of those different features of Krishna, they have planets in the spiritual world. And all of the devotees of all of those different forms of Krishna, they go to those planets, and in those planets, they just serve the Lord with love. Like the worshippers of Lord Ram, they go to Ram's planet. And the worshippers of Lord Narayan, they go to Narayan's planet. And the worshippers of Lord Narsingha, they go to Narsinghdev's planet. Srila Sanatana Goswami tells us that Lord Shiva, he also has planet in the spiritual sky. Yeah, so, but it's interesting because in those different planets of the spiritual sky, they have the understanding that this person that we're showing our love to is the Lord. This person that we're giving our devotion to, this is God. So in all of those different places, they have a very sort of respectful attitude to Krishna. In the meaning, they serve Krishna with folded hands and they say Namo Narayan, Namo Narayan. And there's different rules and there's different regulations that they all must follow. But Goloka Vrindavan has been described as like the top planet of the spiritual world. It's like after you go, like, you can say the spiritual world is like a Gurugram high-rise apartment building. And you go to the top of the high-rise, you have the penthouse, and the rich person buys the whole floor up there and he makes it real nice. Everything's different up there. And in the same way, everything is different in Goloka Vrindavan. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the devotees are covered by Yogamaya, and so they don't see him as being God, they just see him as being their friend or their boyfriend or their cowherd boyfriend or their son. And there they just love him selflessly. They're not going like this all the time. Jasoda calls Krishna Badmash. The gopis call Krishna Badmash. The cowherd boys, they probably use stronger language, but I don't know what that language is. I hear people in Vrindavan using strong language. I don't know if they use that in Goloka Vrindavan also. But there, it is just pure love. And that type of love for Krishna, of all the different types of love for Krishna, and all the different types of love for Krishna are good. And all the different types of love for Krishna are bona fide. But still the best type of love for Krishna is that selfless and spontaneous love that they have for Krishna in Goloka. And this is really what, like, we're followers. We're all followers in the parampara of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Lord Chaitanya, he is Krishna. But when he came with the golden complexion and the emotional mood of Sri Radha. And Lord Chaitanya, he came as a devotee to show all of us how we can serve so that we can go up to that Goloka Vrindavan also. This is what Krishna wants us to do. Krishna says, yes, it's nice. They hold their hands, they say Namo Narayan, but that doesn't catch me 100%. It's nice that they say Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu. That doesn't catch me 100%. You know, what catches me 100% is when my mother calls me a rascal. What catches me 100% is when I do something naughty, the girls become angry at me and they say, go away, you rascal. What catches my heart is when my cowherd boys, they call me some bad names, and then they want to wrestle with me. So this is the idea of Lord Chaitanya. He's Krishna in the mood of a devotee, Sri Radha, serving Krishna and showing us the method and the mood of love of the people of Vrindavan Dham. So, you know, Lord Chaitanya, he lived in this world for 48 years. 24 years he lived in Mayapur, Navadip. And then at the young age of 24, he became a sannyasi. He had everything going for him. He was the most famous of all of the Brahmin teachers of Navadvip. He had a beautiful wife, Vishnu Priya. He had his mother Sachi, who loved him more than anything. And he loved his mom more than anything. After Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, and then he went back to see Mother Sachi, he said, Mother, he said, when I accepted this sannyas order of life, I must have been mad. You know, that I could not have your association at all times. Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita describes Lord Chaitanya as being the best person who is the devotee of his mother, meaning Lord Chaitanya really loved his mother. But Mahaprabhu wanted to go beyond that. Just that small family in Navadip. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wanted everybody in the entire world to understand the process of bhakti by which they could also attain Goloka Vrindavan. Not just to stop the repeated miseries of this world, or not just to stop the, dying and being born and dying and being born, that repetition of birth and death. Mahaprabhu wanted everybody to understand how to develop that special type of love by which we can go to Golok Dham and associate with Krishna over there, and one of the relationships that they associate with Krishna. So he left home. He made a big sacrifice He left his mother. He left his beautiful wife. He left his friends in Navadip. And he became a sannyasi, and he began traveling and chanting and dancing and teaching Krishna consciousness. And after sannyas, like Sachimata, after sannyas, Lord Chaitanya immediately wanted to go to Vrindavan. He said, I will go to Vrindavan, I will find Krishna. I will search for Krishna everywhere. I will find my beloved Krishna. And then Nityananda played a trick on him. Nityananda wanted Lord Chaitanya to go back to Shantipur and to Navadvip so that his friends and his mother could see him as a sannyasi. So for 3 days, Lord Chaitanya didn't eat. And he was just wandering on one side of the Ganga. And after 3 days, then they crossed the river and they went to Shantipur. And there was a reunion of the devotees. They also wrote Chaitanya as a sannyasi. And at that time, his mom said, well, now you're a sannyasi, you cannot stay in your home any longer. She said, but please, you reside in Jagannath Puri, because it's very close. And if you stay in Puri, people from this place can go there and they can get reports about you, and people from there will come here and they will bring reports so I can know what you're doing. So he left. And he went to Puri, and then he traveled to the south, and then he came back, and then he came up to Vrindavan, and he came back, and he would observe Rath Yatra in Puri with all the devotees. But in his last 12 years of life, Lord Chaitanya was really showing us how this Maya Shakti Manaha, having the mind always attached to Krishna, what it is like. And we read in Chaitanya Charitamrita that he always had his close friends with him. His closest friends were Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar. And they were such good friends of the Lord that whenever they saw Lord Chaitanya feeling some special mood of, say, Radharani missing Krishna in Vrindavan, then his friends, they would recite verses from Shastra. And that would make Lord Chaitanya's mood grow more and more, make him more enthusiastic for Krishna. Lord Chaitanya wouldn't sleep. We've all heard how Srila Prabhupada, he didn't sleep very much. That's correct. Srila Prabhupada, he was always traveling. And he would travel, and Prabhupada was so strictly regulated. Srila Prabhupada would travel to a place, get off the airplane, and it didn't even matter if there was 100 time changes. If it was time for giving the class, Prabhupada would give class. Prabhupada would take his prasadam on time every day. Prabhupada would have his massage on time every day. Prabhupada would teach the devotees how to manage ISKCON every day. Prabhupada would give darshan in the afternoon every day. Prabhupada would give class in the evening, practically speaking, every day. And then when all of his disciples, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, when they would all start sort of like falling over and going to sleep, then Srila Prabhupada would start translating. When there was no disturbances around him, Prabhupada would sit down and he'd start translating. He'd translate through the night and sleep very, very little. I can recall when he came to Toronto in 1976, he was having an interview with one man from some famous newspaper. And he said, Swamiji, how do you maintain such a schedule of life? And he said, strict regulation, and I only eat Krishna prasadam. He said, by those two things, I'm able to carry on. Didn't sleep much. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it seems like he never slept, because he was always showing us that we should be eager to attain the devotional service of Krishna. Like now it's 2:15 in the afternoon, and I don't know about you people in Gurugram. I'm starting to become eager for some prasadam. 2:15, it's time to do this, We become eager for prasadam. We become eager when it's time for us to have our afternoon nap. We become eager when it's time for us to go play and do something. Lord Chaitanya was so eager for Krishna, he couldn't sleep. He'd stay in his room all night long crying for Krishna. The devotees used to be so concerned about Lord Chaitanya, they used to lock the door on his room at night so he wouldn't run out into Jagannath Puri. And they would hear him in his room and he'd be just crying, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And sometimes he'd just be banging his head on the wall of his room, trying to get out of his room so he could go be with Krishna. What about it, Rambhadra? Do you have that type of enthusiasm?
I have enthusiasm for Prasadam, Maharaj.
I have the enthusiasm for prasadam. I haven't become that enthusiastic to bang my head on the wall to go find Krishna.
We need your blessings.
But Mahaprabhu is showing us. Sometimes they would lock up his room in the night and they wouldn't hear any noise inside, and they would think, oh, maybe he hurt himself. And they would unlock the door and he wouldn't be in there. Somehow he would escape. And he would go to different places in Puri. Sometimes he'd go to some Goshala in Jagannath Puri, and he would see the cows. And then he would go mad and he would think, oh, this is Nanda Maharaj's Goshala. Soon Krishna will be here. And Lord Chaitanya would fall down and show some very extraordinary, ecstatic signs in his body. Sometimes Lord Chaitanya would just see the ocean in Jagannath Puri, and he would say, oh, it's the Jamuna. Krishna will be at the Jamuna. And Lord Chaitanya would run and fall into the fall into the ocean, and he'd be swept away in the ocean. And they would find him kilometers and kilometers away. That happened one time. He got swept away. And some fisherman who was out fishing in the nighttime, he pulled Lord Chaitanya in his net. I read this a long time ago about the fishermen fishing in the night. I didn't understand it. And then one year, me and some devotees, we went down to Sri Lanka. And we were, me and about 10 other devotees, we were staying in this one house by one beach. And we were having spiritual program and chanting and reading and resting. And I used to go for early morning japa walk. Like I would start walking on the beach while it was still dark. And in the early morning, you'd see fishing boats coming into the shore. And they would be taking off what they'd caught in the evening time. So Lord Chaitanya, he was like in the ocean. He was caught by a fisherman. And the fisherman got really, really scared. Because the fisherman, he looked at that body, and it was not like a human body. It was like all white, and the arms had become disconnected. And it was all really signs of like Lord Chaitanya's feelings of separation. So much. He just wanted to be with Krishna that, he was like experiencing these moods. Fisherman thought it was a ghost. And I said, oh my God, I have a bhuta in my net. And the fisherman reached over and he was like trying to get this thing out of his net. And every time he was touching, the fisherman was like going crazy in ecstasy. And then the fisherman, he started chanting the Narasingha mantra, thinking that was going to protect him. But because Lord Chaitanya and Lord Narasimha were none different, the more he was chanting Lord Narasimha mantra, the more crazy he was becoming. And then finally, devotees came after many, many hours. They heard of this event. And the devotees went there. They found Lord Chaitanya in that extraordinary condition. And they took him out from the net. And the fisherman was speaking to Swarup Damodar. And he was saying, it is ghost. He said, and I have touched that ghost. Now I have become pagal. I have become madman. And sure, anybody that touches the body of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to become a transcendental madman. And Swarup Damodar said, he said, I am a very expert person who makes ghosts go away. I will make the ghost go away from you. And the man said, yes, do it immediately. Then Swarup Damodar very loudly chanted Hare Krishna, and he went, whack! And he slapped the man on his head. He said, now ghost will go away. Chinta mat karo. And then they got Lord Chaitanya, and they started chanting Hare Krishna into his ears. And then Lord Chaitanya gradually started coming back to his consciousness. And he was saying, where am I? Where is Krishna? I was with Krishna. Why did you bring me back here? I want to be with Krishna. So he really showed us that we should become very super enthusiastic to attain Krishna's devotional service. Recently, they had Rath Yatra, and the day before Rath Yatra, they had the cleaning of the Gundicha temple, where Chaitanya was showing us devotees. All of us must clean the heart if we want Krishna to be there. So this is our nice process. But Krishna tells us, keep the mind attached to me. And what are his concluding thoughts in Bhagavad Gita? His concluding thoughts are Manmana Bhagavad Bhakto Majjaji Mam Namaskuru Mami Vaisasti Satyante Pratijani Priyosime. It says, always think of me with love. Keep that mind attached to me with feelings of love. Become my devotee. Worship me and bow down to me. And then Krishna says something very nice. He says, if we do these 4 things, then Krishna says, I promise you, with all the truthfulness of my heart, that I will bring you to me. Because you have become my Priya. And then in his final words, he says, just push away everything else and surrender exclusively to me. Don't worry about yoga. Don't worry about jnana. Don't worry about karma. Don't worry about all these things. Just exclusively give your heart to me in love. And if you do this, I will bring you to me. That's Krishna's promise. So, and don't be afraid to do it. But then, Krishna said that in Dwapara Yuga, and he saw that people weren't doing it. So then he came again as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach us how to keep the mind fixed on Krishna through the process of chanting the holy name and dancing in ecstasy. Okay, my dear devotees in Gurugram, thank you for the association today. I hope that sometime we can come there, we can chant the holy names, we will hear the beautiful voices of your congregation singing with love, and our monkey mind become fixed on Krishna. So thank you all very, very much. And if you all ever come down to Vrindavan, please come visit me. I'm just 5 minutes behind the temple. You're all welcome to come. Hare Krishna.